Welcome to this, the first in a new series of 10-minute tutorials. The aim of these videos is to help and encourage church leaders to think through the issues related to mission and to leadership within the local church in deep and meaningful ways. One of the things I've recognised as I've done the Thought for the Weeks is that 3 minutes is no time at all to discuss some of the subject matter that we raise. And so this is designed to delve that little bit deeper, to think that little bit more about a specific area of ministry with a view to helping you to think through the issues for yourself. It's not designed to tell you necessarily how to do it, but to raise some of the significant issues in order that you might be given a bit of a leg up, a bit of a way in to the conversation and consideration where those things are concerned. We hope you find that helpful. We'd love to know your comments. Please leave them in the comments section below. If you like them, then please don't hesitate to press that like button. If you don't like them, then tell us why. If you think that others might find them helpful, then why not share them? And if you'd like to subscribe, we're looking to produce videos like this on a pretty regular basis, and it will be good to keep you in touch. In this particular video, we're thinking about mission statements. What are they? Why are they useful? Before we kick off and look at this particular subject of mission statements, I just wanted to draw your attention to the show notes below. We're looking to put into that area all sorts of bits of information that might be helpful to you and give you the opportunity to ask for the notes for this particular subject in order that you might think about it more. So take a look at that. And please stay to the end of the video because there'll be the opportunity there to pick up some free resources that will help you with your mission statements. I guess it was about 10 years ago when mission statements or purpose statements or vision statements became one of the things to have in a church. It became trendy to think through some of the issues, to come up with a brief and pithy summary of what we're about as church, and then to pretty much do nothing with it whatsoever. At the time, it was a concept that was derived from the world of business, and for some that was enough to put them off. For others it turned them on because we began to think about church in terms of the way that we actually developed the things that we do, and the business world seemed to have something to offer in terms of our management and organisation. They tended to be adopted and then pretty much widely ignored, mainly because nobody knew what they were supposed to do with them once they'd arrived at a mission statement, and that made it a bit of a weakness, if the truth be known. Too often they weren't owned by the congregation, or they were too generic to really be able to help us to organise and plan the way that we saw the future and the way we did mission and ministry. Now, there's a move away from mission statements. People are beginning to say that they aren't even scriptural and we should never have adopted them in the first place because the church isn't a business, the church is a family, or the church is a community, or the church is something other than a business hub. Now, I dispute that. I dispute, one, that we're not a business. It's not all that we are, but it is definitely something that we are. But I'd also dispute that a mission statement isn't scriptural, it isn't biblical. I do that on the grounds that Jesus paints a portrait of his own mission for us in Luke chapter 4. He takes a pithy summary of words from Isaiah 61 to help to define and describe what he's here to do. And it seems to me that he's suggesting that we should be willing and able to do the same in order that we might not be distracted and in order that we might have clarity in terms of what our purpose as individual Christians and as church is all about. He also tells us, doesn't he, in Matthew 28 verses 19 to 21, what's come to be known as the Great Commission. Notice that the word mission is in there. It's a charge that God lays at the feet of his people, that Jesus says we are to do. We are to go into all the world. We are to preach the gospel to all people. We are to make disciples and teach people to do what he himself did. Now, if that isn't 4 areas that summarize what we are to be about, I don't know what it is. It sounds like a mission statement to me. Now, he obviously thought that such things were useful to keep us on track and not distracted, blown about by every wind and gimmick and fad and fashion of doctrine and teaching and insight that came along. So at its heart, the question I suppose we need to ask ourselves is this: what is a mission statement? Well, for me, it's a short, memorable statement that helps us to answer the question, what are we here to do? What should we do as a church of the many things that we could be doing and everybody seems to think that we should be doing? In the church where I serve, ours came out of the children's work. It was an attempt on the part of the kids leaders to summarise what they were seeking to do where the children were concerned. What did an 18-year-old look like when they come through the whole programme of the church's children's ministry and youth ministry and came out the other end? When the membership saw it, they said, well, why aren't we adopting that for the whole church? And you know, it was almost impossible to deny the truthfulness of that particular claim and statement. This is our mission statement. Albany Road Baptist Church exists to help people know Christ, grow in faith, go to the world, and show God's love. We tried to make it memorable, we tried to make it succinct, and so we've summarised it in 4 words, just 4 words. We exist to know, grow, go, and show. And that's what we seek to do. We seek to plan what we are doing as a church in future. We seek to develop our schedule as a church and ask the question, does it help us in some way to fulfill this mission statement? Does it help us know Christ? Does it help us grow in faith? Does it help us go to the world around us and the world globally? And does it help us to show the love of God to all we meet? 4 words, 4 little statements that have proved to be hugely helpful in terms of us hanging our mission on, hanging our planning on where church is concerned. Now, a mission statement should be what they call SMART. It should be specific, measurable. It should be attainable. It's not supposed to be pie in the sky and never achievable. It's supposed to be something that we can do. It's to be realistic, rooted in the reality of our experience, and it is to be timely. It's to fit where we are at this moment in time. It needs to be general enough to cover all that God calls us to do, but specific enough for people to understand, apply to their daily lives, and in the life of the church, and know when they're succeeding. That's so often difficult, isn't it, in the life of the church? When do we know when we've succeeded if we don't have anything to benchmark against? So why is a mission statement useful? You know, the simple truth is a mission statement is only useful if it's used. If a mission statement is devised and simply used as our little strapline, a pithy saying that appears at the top of letterheads, and nothing else happens with it, then actually it's probably of very little use at all. And in fact, in the church where I serve, we don't actually use knowing, growing, going and showing as our strapline. Our strapline as a church is everyone welcome. It says something about our desire to reach out and to include people in the life of the church. But that's not our mission statement. It's our strapline. They're different. Do you know, for me as a church leader, one of the things I found in having a mission statement in both this church and my previous church is that somehow it takes the pressure off me to lead, to be the one who is ultimately responsible for decision making and all those things that people sort of lay upon us as burdens as leaders in the life of the church. Since we've arrived at the mission statement together as a congregation, it's become the regulating principle in pretty much all we do. When people have ideas, instead of asking for permission, as though permission somehow were necessary, what we do is say, how does it help us fulfill our mission statement together? If they can answer that, then they've already received their permission, their sanction, whatever they feel that they need from that. If they can't answer it, then that leaves us in a place where we need to ask ourselves a pertinent question. Does our mission statement need to change to accommodate this? Has it reached the end of its time in its usefulness to us? Or should we say, no, that's not what we're called to do? That's proved to be really helpful. And as a church leader, one of the things I found is that I've become the keeper of the mission statement. I'd probably say more often than anything else what the mission statement is and ask people whether it helps us to fulfill the mission statement in terms of what they propose. It's also freed people to step out in faith. Instead of people coming to me for permission or to sanction a new project, if they can show how what they propose helps us to do so, then they can just get on with it. They don't have to worry about it. And what we tend to find is that we're asking, do you need any money to do that? You know, is that something that we can encourage you and support you in? And they become much more creative and positive questions to ask. It acts also as a litmus test as to how each area of the life of the church is doing in terms of us moving forward in faith. We can ask, how is it helping us to know Christ, or to grow in faith, or to show God's love, or to go to the world? It doesn't have to fulfill all of those things, but it has to measure up against at least one of those things. As such, it's kept us as a church both flexible in our approach, adaptable and willing to embrace new concepts and new ideas, but also it's helped to keep us on track. So it's created a situation where we are bounded, but not creating barriers for the development and growth of the church. It's kept us moving forward. It's been really helpful for us to be able to remind ourselves as to what we felt God called us to do. A good mission statement should stand the test of time. The interesting thing is, I've been in the church now 8 years, and we arrived at this as our mission statement at the end of year 1. For the past 7 years, it has not become jaded, it has not become old-fashioned and old hat, it has not become tarnished, it still has a freshness to it that enables us to move forward as a church. When we started, our mission statement had 3 points. It was knowing, growing, and showing. It's only in the past few years that we've actually expanded the showing to include going, because we recognised that that was an area where we were a little deficient and we needed to actually improve. So it hasn't stayed static, it hasn't stayed the same, it has expanded and grown and developed with us.